The electronics industry has had a history of up and downs, and 2021 is no different. The incredible shortage of chips and the now real growth explosion of automotive, IoT and industrial demands are making these some of the most interesting times in many years. Joining us to discuss the change in the way we have worked in the past year, what challenges and opportunities have presented themselves, and what direction we might expect the market to develop in, is Jim Ricciardelli from Digi-Key. Jim, customer demand has really changed the past few months, probably more than ever. How is it possible to deliver to these ever-increasing demands?
Yeah, it's actually extraordinary what we're seeing. You know, we look at the chip business, the semiconductor business, and right now it's on a path to grow 12.5% this year. Right, it's a huge industry growing at 12.5%. At Digi-Key, we want to grow twice the market. That's kind of our barometer. So that's 25% growth we would expect this year. We're actually seeing 50% growth at the moment. So great question. How do you keep up with 50% growth? And you know, I look at a lot of different reasons, but there are really three primary things to focus on at Digi-Key. You know, one is we're a private company, right? And we saw this increase coming in late 2019. Now, did we think it was going to be this level of growth? No. But in 2019, we started increasing our inventory levels. And then the pandemic hit, and we had a big decision to make in 2020, which was, do we continue, bringing in inventory so aggressively? And as a private company, we were able to make that decision to say, yeah, we planned for this at some level with the inventory that we brought in, going all the way back to 2019. Number two, company culture is so important at Digi-Key. If it wasn't for the hardworking, resourceful team culture we have at Digi-Key, it would be really hard to keep up with this demand. And that's the most enjoyable part of this. And then the third piece is innovation, right? So our DNA is to just continuously innovate. We're proud of our heritage of being the original and pioneer of this market, but it's all about customer value and ease of doing business.
So, Jim, there's been a history of up and down cycles in all industries. Electronics is nothing different there. Can you just tell me, where do you think we are now? And how is this different from where we've been in the past?
You know, I really believe this cycle is different, and you're right. There's many, the history of this industry has been cycles up, cycles down. So in late 2019 and then in January of 2020, all indicators, our web traffic, the usage of our online design tools, we saw an upcycle coming, right? But then in February of 2020, the pandemic hit, and many industries went into pause, which caused really the electronics supply chain to pause in many ways. But then in the third quarter of 2020, July 2020, a perfect storm hit on top of COVID, right? I believe industries, automotive industry is probably the best example. Many industries decided, wow, we've got numbers to hit this year. And we saw the purchasing turn on in the third quarter of 2020. A lot of pent up demand, and the supply wasn't ready for it, because I think a lot of the supply side of the business had slowed things down. The one interesting thing is we didn't see a slowdown at all at engineers, innovators visiting our websites. In fact, we saw our customer count grow significantly because engineers were working at home. They didn't stop working. They were still coming out with new products, across the gamut. 5G cell phones, laptops, automotive, smart homes, medical, industrial automation. So this is not a typical cycle. While things slowed down, it came back so strong. And I believe this is a big shift in the industry because of all these new technologies coming out. I think the pie's getting bigger. The pie has gotten bigger. As the world's becoming more digital, every aspect of our lives, right, is causing more semiconductors, more electronic components to be consumed. The problem we have right now is supply has to catch up to demand, right? So we're probably at least, I believe, a year to 18 months before the supply chain can stabilize. So we're going to continue to see this imbalance of more demand than supply. we would typically expect a big downturn to follow a big upcycle. I don't think that's going to happen. Instead of seeing the big down cycle that we've seen in the past, I believe we'll see a decrease of normalization of supply and demand balancing, but it'll be a more steady year-over-year growth rate. While there's been disruptions caused by COVID, the supply chain, the market has still grown due to the true demand. You think about the semiconductor business, global 440 billion roughly, it's going to get to close to 500 billion this year. So the pie is getting bigger. So I guess the punchline is I don't expect a big down cycle after this upcycle. There'll be a normalization of the business though.
And prior to COVID, digital transformation was being talked about in almost every industry. How's that conversation changed for the electronics industry?
I think prior to the cycle we're in now, it was very kind of aspirational. Digital transformation was being discussed a lot, but it was very aspirational about where companies wanted to go. It's and I think the point here is it's necessary now. Now, the good news is I think a lot of technologies were in place. So it's a matter of not technology development, it's technology adoption. The saying of necessity is the mother of invention. I think today the saying should be necessity is the mother of adoption, right? I was at dinner last night with my daughter, and at the end of the evening, the check came, and I pulled out my credit card, and my 24-year-old daughter said, "What are you doing? You want the waitress to have to touch your credit card? You use your app." So I scanned the QR code and paid it with my phone, and we walked away. It's just, that's adoption. That technology has been there for a long time. So it's exciting that mindsets are shifting. It's all about mindset shift at the moment and faster adoption. And I think that's a good thing for everyone.
And that's put us in the position of this huge problem we've got with chip shortages. I mean, not only has COVID-19 created so many issues around the world, but there are so many challenges. Can you describe what those challenges are, really? I mean, because they're real, aren't they? And are there any opportunities that are coming, or is it just a bit doom and gloom as far as chips are concerned?
Well, there are real challenges, and I think the market environment and the supply chain challenges are very real, as you just said. And there was incredible backlog created from COVID, factory shutdowns, limited work staff. And then we saw this huge global spike in demand of semiconductors for IoT, for the 5G cell phones, medical, automotive, industrial automation across so many industries. And then on top of that, we have freight constraints, right? Shipping container shortages, port of entry delays, cargo ships sitting out in the harbors for 2 or 3 weeks trying to get product into us. And then we had the major shortage of the wafer fabs in the world and the raw material shortages. So these things are all happening at once, and it's hard, right? So, but I don't think it is all doom and gloom. I think we're going to get through this period. We are getting product to customers, no doubt. But the opportunities might be things you don't think about, right? I think there's a great opportunity around this whole future of work that we're all talking about now. So it's caused us all to think differently. Some of the things I see going on in the industry, distributors and suppliers are working more closely together to alleviate the customer disruption, right? Much more tighter conversations going on to work together. Customers are multi-sourcing components, which is always a good idea, but really important now to have multi-sources. And then just driving efficiencies on every activity within the business, right? So like at Digi-Key, we like to say we have 1,000 little things we do every day to get customers' product. We're analyzing every one of those 1,000 little things and how we can do it more efficiently. So I think every business is going through that right now. So that's the opportunity, just working smarter, working better.
And Jim, you've been around a while. We've been through stock market crashes, dips in economies and all sorts of things. You've been around a while, you've got a lot of experience. What do you think that we're going to be seeing a year ahead? Because this is kind of unprecedented where we've been in the past year. It's different from anything I've ever seen. What are you forecasting for what's coming next?
Yeah, so, my crystal ball is telling me, which is my crystal ball. But my experience is also telling me that, this is really true. There's true demand out there. So robust growth for the electronic components industry, it's here. We're all living in this connected living environment. We all want to be more connected. The exciting thing for me is this is early stages, right? So, it's mind-boggling to think about artificial intelligence and machine learning. Basically technology that is seamlessly integrating into our lives. It's still coming at us, right? All the opportunities. And the thing that's really incredible is all the data that is created through all this digital connection. And with cloud computing and the ability to store this data, the ability to use this data to make smarter decisions, it's still coming in a big way to us. So, in my mind, it's all about, the companies that will win are the ones that can scale and take advantage of this growth. Digital platforms, of course, will be critical. So will the industry, so the question I ask is, and I think there's an obvious answer, I hope, will the industry recede back to a $400 billion semiconductor global industry, or is it going to go, pass through the $500 billion level and start working its way to $600 billion? And, I'm betting on the latter. I think this industry is just going to continue to grow. We're going through some challenges at the moment for supply, but we've got a lot of big, smart companies that are going to solve that problem. So that's my view of the future.
Jim, very interesting, very enlightening. Thank you so much for your time.